I'm going to be installing some mosaic tile on the ceiling of this bathroom. The first thing you need to do is determine exactly where to start. Now this line you see up here on the ceiling is the inside of the bullnose. So you need to determine where to start with your tile. So to help me out with this installation, I'm going to put a straight edge up on the ceiling. Now, like I showed you before, that line is exactly where the tile is going to start on the inside part of the ceiling, and on the other side is going to be the bullnose. So I'm putting this straight edge up right on the line. This way I can butt my tile up against this straight edge, and you don't have to worry about keeping it on the line, because you just push it up against the straight edge and it's going to be on the line. And I'm just putting a couple of screws in, and when I take this board down, the screws will be covered by the bullnose. So you got the straight edge right on the line, and that's where my tile is going to start. Now I've got a center line going from front to back, and I've divided the ceiling. So I'm going to start with one side, I'm going to finish that, and then I'm going to go to the other side. So I'm going to follow that line, and I'm going to butt the tile up against the straight edge. Now on the ceiling I'm using Mastic, and the reason I'm using Mastic is because it's never going to see any water up there, and the Mastic grabs the tile a little better than thinset. If you were to use thinset, you'd still the tile would still stay up, but when there's just a regular shower, and there's not going to be any steam in this shower. This is not a steam room. If it were a steam room, then you'd have to use thinset. But because it's just a regular tub area, I'm going to be using Mastic. And I have a 5/16 inch V-notch trowel, because this is mosaic tile, and I don't want a lot of adhesive coming through the grout lines. So you have to use the right size trowel for the tile. Now, when you spread the Mastic, you get put up a little bit at a time, because it'll just keep falling on your face if you're not careful. So just spread it out, get some Mastic on the ceiling, get it all covered, and once you've got it all covered, then you can just even it all out and get the lines. I usually try and get the lines going all in one direction. So it's just go slow and don't rush it, because otherwise it's going to be falling on your face. And if this was thinset, it's even worse. So the reason I use Mastic, it just makes it a little easier, and this is never going to see any water up here. The walls are all done in thinset, but the ceiling you can use Mastic if you want. Now that we've got our adhesive spread on the ceiling, it's time to get some Mastic up. And to aid in getting the tile up and putting it in flat, what I use is a little piece of plywood to help me hold it flat as I get it onto the ceiling. Now you just gently put it in place, and then once you've got it where it needs to go, you just press it in, and I use a float to push it in and get it embedded into the thinset. Well, in this case, Mastic. And then what I usually do is I pull down a corner just to make sure that I got good coverage under the tile, because you don't want so much adhesive on the ceiling that it's gonna squeeze through the joints of the tile, but you want enough so that you get good coverage. And that's why you have to use the right size trowel. So I got that piece in place exactly where it wants to go. I pushed it up against the straight edge, and now and then right on that line, and you have to make sure that the straight edge and that line is perpendicular, because otherwise you're not going to be able to follow it. But anyway, so you just keep on going through this process of pushing the tile in, using a piece of plywood that I got there to get it into place. And you're going to go back and forth and check and make sure that you got the right gap, and then you press it into place with the float. And then you can move it a little bit if you have to by pushing the float in the direction as you're applying the pressure to the tile, pushing the float in the direction that you want the tile to go. And you want to get it in place, because after a little while it's going to be very difficult to move. So you want to make sure you got it in the right place as you're doing it. And you just continue doing this, placing tile up with the board. If you try and put it up with your hands, it's just going to flop all over the place. You can't hold it flat. So this really works well doing it this way. And so you just keep on doing this process. Okay, once you're done, this is what you should have. Now I'm going to show you how I cut those tiles a little bit further on in this video. But so you did one half, time to move on to the next tile. Got the first part done. Now it's time to start all over again on the second half. So spread your mastic like the first time and set your tile like you did on the first half. So this is how I cut the tile. I usually use a wet saw, and I just put on the wet saw and slowly push the tile through the wet saw. Sometimes you can do this and the tile will stay on the mesh. Sometimes when it gets wet, the tile will not fall off the mesh. So the only thing you can do is give it a try. And if you cut the tiles and then pat them dry with a rag to get all the water off it, you have more chance that the tiles will stay on the mesh as after you've cut them. They won't fall right off as you're cutting them, but sometimes after they've been sitting on the after they've been wet for a little while, they will just come off the mesh. So you just gotta give it a try. If you can get them to stay on the mesh, then it's easier to put them on in the ceiling, because you can put them in a few at a time. Whereas if you And if they come off the mesh, then you have to put them in one at a time. So you just have to give it a try. The best way to do it, though, is to cut it on a whistle like this. Once you have your tiles cut, it's time to put them in place. Now, before you put the tiles up, you're going to check to make sure that your adhesive is still tacky. If they're not, you're going to have to back butter, put a little dab of mastic or thinset, whatever you're using, on the back of the tile before you push it in place. So, so that's how I usually do them. Just get all my field tile in, and then cut the tiles that go around the edges, and then just put them in place. I mean, pretty straightforward. So once you're done with that, you take the straight edge off, and you should have a nice clean line, and it's time to put the bullnose up. So the way I do it is I just back butter the bullnose. First of all, you're going to determine exactly where you're going to start. I'm starting exactly in the middle, and then I'm going to cut both sides so that I have the same piece on both sides. So get some lines up, just so you know where to put it. You back butter the tile, and you press it into place. And that's it. And once you've got that done, and now I'm putting a couple of little wedges in here just to give me the right distance away from the field tile. So that's basically, once you've got the bullnose on, you're done with the ceiling. And I usually always put the ceiling in before I put the last row of tile in. That way I don't have to cut the ceiling to the walls. Rather, I cut the wall to the ceiling, and that way working upside down is uncomfortable, and it's not easy. So it's easier just to reverse and cut the last row of tile to the ceiling, and that'll cover any rough edges that you have on the ceiling that goes up against the wall. And that's basically all there is to it. And you just want to make sure when you put this ceiling up that you've determined exactly where to start, because you want the bullnose to line up exactly with the bullnose that comes up the walls. These are different tiles, black tile on the ceiling, so the width of the bullnose is different for the ceiling than it is for the wall tile. But the outside edge, you want it to line up exactly with the outside edge of the bullnose that comes up the wall. And that's it, basically done. When you're done, you should have something like this, a nice, neat ceiling. And I don't have much mastic squeezing through, and whatever did squeeze through, I cleaned it up. Makes it easier for grouting when it's done.